Hey everybody, welcome back. Another episode here of Banish the Doubt. In this episode, I want to talk about Buddha, who was here on Earth. I think it was 700 to 1,000 years before Jesus walked this earth. And like Buddha, Jesus was never here to start a religion. Neither was Buddha. But Buddha was here to end suffering. And Jesus took a lot of what Jesus talked about came from what Buddha was talking about. And I can remember hearing a story um, about Buddha that when he was going around talking to people, spreading this information, this idea, or what we talk about actually today, how a lot of what happens to us happens because of what's in us. People were rejecting this information, this type of teaching, and one of his devotees was walking with him, and people were really deriding Buddha. And his devotee says to him, "Master," he says, "does this not bother you? Or listen to what they're saying, how they're talking about you." And what Buddha said to him, he said, "My good man, if somebody tries or wants to give you a gift and you don't accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" So this is a tremendous teaching. It's something for us to keep in mind whenever somebody may be saying something. I tell this to my son all the time. Nobody outside of you or nothing outside of you can or should be able to affect who you are, how you feel about yourself. Because whenever somebody says something to us or triggers us, it's because of whatever it is they're attempting or whatever it is they're saying, or however they're acting, however we're reacting to that, it's because that thought is already inside of us. We've already planted that seed inside of us. And this is why that emotion, that whatever they're saying affects us, because it's already inside. We're already feeling that about ourselves and we don't like it. So whenever somebody touches that wound, we react. So he was here to try to stop the suffering. And he said that there are three poisons that humans are afflicted with: greed, anger, and amazingly, here he says stupidity. But I want to focus on these two here, primarily in this video, because a lot of this comes from how we were raised. So neither shall they say it's here nor there, but the kingdom of God is within. When the kingdom of God, though, this is what Jesus talked about, our mind. The kingdom is in our mind, is within you. This was Luke 20:11. Now, again, I want to sort of weave together Buddha and also Jesus' teachings, because a lot of, again, what Jesus taught about came from um, the teachings of Buddha. But here he says, "I form the light and create darkness." This is what Jesus talked about as far as the kingdom. Okay. "I make peace and create evil." Electricity. Okay. "I, the Lord, do all of these things." So he's saying, I do this. So a lot of people say, well, if there is a God, then why is all this suffering taking place in this world? But what Jesus said here in the Bible was, I create everything. I create good and I create evil. I, the Lord, do all of these things. I form the light, I create darkness. I make peace, I create evil. Now, I say here electricity because just like this light above my head is great, is electricity, is providing this light for me to be able to make this video. If put into the right hands, it does this. If I were to control that electricity, I'd probably burn this house down. because what he's saying is it's in our mind. Our mind, if put into the right hands or if taken care of properly, it's a beautiful thing. Our life is a beautiful place. If it's put into the wrong hands, the wrong person, like this electricity will burn the house down. Those who have it, the power to control the electricity, there's power there. Put the right hands, you have beautiful light. The wrong hands, you have evil. So that's what he's talking about. It's not he, God, that does this. It's us, our minds. This is the one. And similar to what Buddha was saying, the three poisons: greed, anger, and stupidity. So let's find out a little bit more about what he talked about. Now, what Buddha was saying to his devotees and his followers, well, we say these things: Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And that breaks down to reverence for the invisible, and the invisible spirit, which manifests itself into our physical body. Okay? Renge is cause and effect. There is a for every effect in our life, there is a cause. This is what now think about. Remember, this is 700 to 1,000 years. He was talking about this before Jesus even came here, and this is what he was teaching his followers. Okay, nothing you are doing right now happens by itself. There's a cause. So you're watching this video based on a cause. Somebody placed in you, or something, or someone placed in you this cause. The effect is you're sitting here watching me, watching this video. The effect, the cause for me to make these videos, something was placed, this information, this desire was placed inside of me. The desire for you to learn this stuff was already placed inside of you. So he talked about this: have reverence for the invisible, which manifests into our physical being, who we are, and that there's a cause and effect for everything. Okay? Now, I also heard this saying from somebody, I forget who it was, that said Jesus almost was laughing, and Buddha and what have you, said, because let's place the answer, okay, to everybody's problems inside, because humans will look everywhere else but inside, right? Isn't that exactly how we live? I got to go listen to that person. I got to listen to that person. This guru here, I got to follow this guru. They have all the answers. And the answer, Buddha was saying, again, 1,000 years, 700 years before Jesus walked this earth, was the answers are inside of you, inside of me. This is where we look inside. But a lot of what was taught to us by the Bible, for any of us who read it or follow that, like myself being Irish Catholic, the Bible and other teachings spoke in parables. It's not a religious book. Jesus was not here to start a religion. It speaks to us in parables, but it's all about us, our minds, our physical body, how everything works inside of us. All the problems, everything emanates from us. All the answers are inside of us. We are to look nowhere but within ourselves for answers to whatever it is that ails us. Now, Buddha says we play a part in poisoning ourselves. Okay, you and I, we are the ones who start this, who put this poison. Well, we actually put the poison, but the poison was already inside of us. But we look elsewhere to find the elixir. We find the cure outside of us. But oftentimes, almost 99.999% of the time, the answer to our whatever ails us is inside. Okay, anger, fear, guilt, hate. All that information comes into our brains, right? But we were taught to suppress it. A lot of us now, for some of you watching this video, if you're my age or maybe a little bit older or maybe even a little bit younger, society right, has taught us, especially us men, suppress the anger. Don't face it. Don't talk about it, right? Don't ever talk to anybody. Just deal with it. Or what we hear, suck it up, right? Sensitive men, no. Society, the system, has told us we have to, you and I, men, we have to have the sensitivity taken out of us. Why is that? Why do you think the society or the system that's out there in place would want us to have this sensitivity taken from us? Because you cannot become a killing machine and go kill somebody if you're sensitive, right? They couldn't take me if I was of the age to go into war, or my father before me, if I was a sensitive person, if I cared about the enemy, if I thought, well, they don't understand what they're doing. They need to look inside and to figure out why they're sitting here with a gun in it. That's got to go. You got to kill that person, right? So society, a lot, not for so much myself, but my father and his father, the men and women who came through the Depression, came through the First World War, right? Now their offspring comes through the Second World War. They've got to be these tough exterior John Wayne type, right? Physical, tough. Now I'm not saying us men can't be that, but and I tell my son this all the time, this muscle first before this muscle. If you want a good depiction of this, have you ever seen the movie Braveheart? Mel Gibson, when I'm trying to think of the name of his character. Mel Gibson's character in the movie was a young boy, and he watched as his family was slaughtered by King Lionheart. I think it was Lionheart, whatever. But that he watched that. His uncle comes to him, and he wants to seek revenge. This young Mel Gibson's character, this young boy, I think it was maybe like, 8, 9 years of age. And the uncle says to him, easy, easy. He said, come with me. First, he said, we take care of this. Then we worry about this. So this is what we're talking about here. It's going inside. It's understanding this muscle, not this muscle. So understanding where that anger comes from, that rage, that hostility. Okay. So, but we've been taught though to push it down, push it, suppress everything. So this is why when you're around people, you don't feel any of the anger. If you're talking to somebody about whatever's bothering you, or talking about somebody else or with other people, we generally don't feel it. It's when we're alone. It's when we're alone that the Bible talks about, Jesus talks about, we hear the screams from the cellar they talked about in the Bible. That's all this stuff pushed down inside of us. Coming from the cellar means coming from our gut. Again, talking about in symbolism, okay? That's how they talked. It was very symbolic. A lot of this was explained to us in that type of a way, okay? The child within you, the child within us, is the one who has been hurt. So a lot of what takes place, a lot of this anger, a lot of this chasing, greed, competitiveness, be better than the other person, crush the opposition, suck it up, be the dog. You hear a lot of this now in football season, the dog inside that guy. You got to grind, you got to hustle. That's all comes from the hurt, okay? The child who was hurt, who then understands this is how we succeed in life. So we continue. Now, Buddha talks about, and Jesus as well, but more so in this case, in this video, Buddha talked about what was placed inside of us, where how we are today is based off of what was placed inside of us. Now, for you watching, if this is your first time watching my videos, welcome, and welcome to the channel. And if you are liking what you're seeing so far, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, please, and subscribe button and the notification bell so you get all of my videos. But the reason I'm saying this, and if you're a returning subscriber, what I'm going to explain to you here again, You may have heard this before, but this is really, really important that we keep hearing about this and keep understanding this, because this, to me, is so central to why things are, and people, everybody in society is the way that they are. We see it playing out specifically this week based off of the election results from the other night. We see it playing out. A lot of us versus them. Teams, again, people going at each other. One, oh, we're the victors, and the other was, we're going to seek revenge. That's a lot of it comes from what I'm going to explain here. This is what Buddha was talking about, the anger and the greed and the revenge, the vengefulness. So let me go into what I'm going to explain in this diagram here. And for those of you who are returning subscribers watching this video, it's a little bit of a refresher. For those of you who are new, this is what I'm going to explain. So we see here, let me just change the camera angle. Okay, so here is 3T. This represents, the T is the third trimester. The third trimester is when our brains turn on. Okay, so we're a fetus at this point. And everything that we, how our mom sees, or when we're as a fetus, saw the world, was transferred to us through the umbilical cord. A lot of how mom and dad saw the world, if it was a lot of stress, there was a lot of, again, anger, a lot of hostility, a lot of revenge, vengeful, a lot of anger, a lot of dysfunction. That information, that energy was transferred to you and I through our mom's umbilical cord down to you and I. And studies have shown that for a fetus, if mom is transferring that energy of stress, of fear, of anxiety through the umbilical cord, studies have shown that cognitively, up to 50% of our cognitive makeup is hindered based on that, based on how mom saw the world. Okay, so now here at age 0, okay, is when we're in the brain waves known as delta. They are the slowest brain waves. Delta, think of that as in the middle of the night, you're sound asleep, you're deep into a dream. Your brain is in delta brainwave. It's the slowest brainwave. That's at age 0. Okay. From there to age 2, we are in this brainwave. So we're born, our eyes are open, but we're just observing mom, dad, family, whatever it may be. So again, if the family life that we come into is one of dysfunction, maybe there's a lot of anxiety because we're born. Maybe this dad's not around, and there's a single mom situation, or you're an orphan or something like that. This here is in delta. We're observing our world. From age 2 to age 7, we are now in the theta brainwave. It's a little quicker brainwave. Think of theta as when you're falling asleep at night. You're not quite sleeping, you're not quite awake. You're just sort of in that groggy state. When you first wake up in the morning and you go walk to the bathroom or what have you, your body's waking up, your mind is waking up. You're in theta brainwaves. It's a very slow brainwave. But here's the reason I'm saying this. There's no consciousness at this point from, well, obviously third trimester, from age 0, when we're first born, to age 7, our brains, the conscious brain is not developed yet. So everything that we witness in our world, how mom and dad interact with each other, what is our culture like, what are the rules for our family, lots of rules, right, for the family, lots of rules for our culture. If you're of a certain culture, let's say I'm Irish, so what are the family rules? How do people like of our culture, how do we act? All of this, what was the relationship between siblings? All of that is there. We're downloading all this information. Much like the computer I'm making this video from our operating system is downloaded in these years. So everything what Buddha says, how we are all the we think about if our family is very there's a lot of stress around money, that's downloaded into us. So this is here. Next is and I have here I kind of added this in. I forgot to do it earlier. Alpha brainwave. Alpha is as again, it's a little quicker than theta, but it's alpha is slow consciousness or low consciousness. Our brains are starting to become conscious, or the conscious brain is now developed. A lot of what we can recall happens here. Oh, I think I was around 6, maybe 7 years of age when this happened. I was about 5, maybe 6 years old when this happened. Stop crying. I'll give you something to cry about. Okay? Terrible twos, the H2, right? We talked about terrible twos. So think about how mom and dad and anybody else, our caregivers, raised us during these years. A lot of around here, things such as, I'll give you something to cry about. Big boys don't cry. Stop your crying. Over here, you're okay. Over here, parents are starting to get a little frustrated. Now, here's something very, very interesting, okay? John Bradshaw said, screaming at a child can cause a change in the electromagnetic field of that child. And that child can be in trouble for the rest of their life based on parents didn't know any better screaming at a child. If you were ever screamed at growing up, our electromagnetic field, John Bradshaw and other scientists have said, can get changed, altered for the rest of our life based off of this. Okay? But understand this though, our bodies keep score. So this information comes into our brain, all this here. And again, what do? We learn how to suppress it because why? Oftentimes here, this is how, especially if you're young boys like myself growing up, we watched how our father did this, right? How did they handle stress? How did they handle the anger was pushed inside, or they vented out? They had a lot of anger issues. They screamed a lot. Okay, a lot of this affected us here, but we carry this with us. We don't even realize we carry this with us unconsciously into our adulthood. This is why we can hear people say things like, well, that person is this age chronologically, but emotionally, they're still a child in a lot of ways. They're still acting out. The little child inside of them is still acting out. This is why. So now after alpha or the slower brain waves, then we go 12 years old and on, we're in beta. Now think of this here. I've heard it said, in beta, let's say you're on a team, right? And you are on a team. You are on a team. You don't realize it. This is a family. You're enculturated. This team. This is how this culture is supposed to act, right? How we're proud. Fill in the blank. Irish. We're proud. Colombia. We're proud. Italians, Portuguese, whatever it may be. This is who we are. We wave the flags. All of that. Patriotic. All that stuff. Not saying it's bad, but these are the rules of the family. So we get into beta and we're on a team, and it said the coach says to us, "Come on, let's go, pick it up. You're lazy, whatever." A 12-year-old boy hears this, or a girl, they may think, all right, that's true. I got to pick it up. You tell you say that to them, a parent, because parents like a coach says that to a child, let's say 4 or 5 years of age, the conscious mind's not formed yet. That goes right into our subconscious. It gets downloaded. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not deserving. A lot of times I know myself growing up, lots of arguments in my family over money. Who wasn't working hard enough? Who was bringing more to the table? I watched a lot of times with my parents argue, and for a 4 or 5, 7, 6-year-old child, watching dad after an argument, we're sitting right, and maybe you can relate to this, mom and dad going back and forth, and you're just sort of like watching this or hearing this. Maybe you're hearing it through the wall, and you just want to stop. Because you don't know what's going on. You're scared. But then dad leaves, in my case. Okay, and it happened just about a week or so ago. Our next door neighbor, big time fight in the house, and then dad hopped on his motorcycle and off he went. Now I'm in my 50s. You know where my brain went? Right back. I could see it in my mind's eye my father walking out the front door, slamming it, hopping in the car, and off he went. Where is he going? Is he coming back? I hope he's coming back. When's he going to come back? Mom's upset. She's crying. I'm going to go now as a child. What am I going to do? I'm going to go help mom. Right? My brain is being created, or the conditioning, the the operating system, right? Just like this computer is being downloaded into my brain. My brothers hearing the same argument, they interpret it differently. My one brother followed along my dad, became an alcoholic, just like our dad. Went into the service, just like our dad was in the service, followed along. So we see how this takes place, right? But think about this. What did I start off with this video? Buddha, right? Buddha was around 700 years before Jesus. Now, my parents went to church, pardon the pun, religiously every Sunday. What were we raised on? Well, if you didn't go to church, you were what? You were sinning. If you didn't go to confession on Saturday, you were what? You were sin. Well, not sinning, but God's keeping score, right? St. Peter standing at the pearly gates behind me here. He's got his board, right? Hey, you passed away from down there on earth. Well, let's see how you did. What was your life like? Can you get behind me into these pearly gates into heaven? Right? But this is what, again, young children are indoctrinated. They're into this type of thinking. So obviously my father came back home. He went out, had a couple of drinks, because this is what you do, right? You suppress all this anger, all this frustration down inside. He ended up passing away after a stroke. Not surprisingly, he lived a full life, but a lot of his life was a lot of frustration. He ends up having a lot of these different like cuts and things on his head, because all that is the body keeping score. Okay, so just to kind of once over on this, some of you people who are watching this, viewers or subscribers, have seen this before, maybe not so much detail that I just explained it. Some of you new folks are seeing this. This is very, very, very vital to understand this. Okay, so now Buddha talked about, and Jesus talked about meditating. Think about us today. The average person, I heard a study talk about 10 minutes. They asked, I believe it was a study of guys and girls, and they asked them they had two questions. Question one, sit for 10 minutes alone with your thoughts. Or two options, not questions, two options. Option A, sit alone with your thoughts quietly for 10 minutes. Or option B, give yourself an electric shock. Something like 60 to 70% of women said, I'll take the electric shock. No way I'm sitting for myself for 10 minutes alone with my thoughts. Okay, now it ties into what I just talked about. I think it was like 70% or whatever. The guy said, yeah, I'll just take the electric shock, forget it. I'm not going to sit. Why? Because we don't want to, right? Up here, maybe you can read that. We don't want to be alone with our thoughts. A lot of our thoughts go back to this. We don't want to revisit those thoughts. So what happens? We have a lot of distractions. Society has set us up with distractions, right? Cell phones, computers, social media, whatever, 24/7 news, anything at the tip of our fingers. The snap of our fingers, we can get everything is here. Our life from the moment we wake up until we go to bed is nothing but just a saturation of distractions. I got to do this, I got to do there, and we get older, we get married, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. And go back to this for a second. We grow up, okay, this is our subconscious programming. This is our subconscious mind. we are full of distractions. But then we grow up, right? And what happens? We meet somebody, we fall in love, and everything is wonderful. Our life is just roses and butterflies, and that's great. We have this. They love me, I love them. I can't believe this. We're gonna get what? We're gonna get married. So the church says, well, now you have to get married in front of all your family and friends. You have to confess, or you have to profess, not confess, you have to profess your love for this girl or this guy in front of all of your family and friends, which is great. But if you get divorced, well, that really shouldn't happen. So we have this guilt, and we have this um, guilt and what have you, reservations about getting divorced because what the church says. But I want to talk about something else for a second, why I'm bringing this up. So we get married, or we're get engaged, and we're very happy. And then what ends up happening is we go into our marriage, and we bring this with us into our marriage. Now, our spouse, up until this point, hasn't seen this side of us. We get a house, whatever it may be, we move in together, and suddenly all this, it's inside of us, how we are to operate, comes out. And that one person says to the other, like, whoa, where did this person come from? Because now we're going to our job, and now the marriage is over and life is happening, right? So this is what we're bringing into the relationship. And if it ends up in some cases before the marriage or a divorce, what happens? Well, we don't want to share this. We're gun shy, right? So a lot of times we end up settling for a relationship or for a marriage. We're not totally happy. We'll just settle because we don't want to deal with the hurt again. Because of who we are in our subconscious mind, all of this that we bring with us into a relationship. See, I liken this to, and I talked about this earlier, and the distraction. I'm going to get back to this in a second. Think of this here. Make believe I'm carrying a bag on my shoulder, and behind me in my bag is all the stuff that I've been raised with, I was born with, and I have it as I believe they're rocks, and some of these are big stones, some of these are cinder blocks, and I'm carrying it with me, and the body is keeping score, and I bring that and I just dump it into the relationship because this is who I am. This is what I'm bringing to a relationship with my life. And we have two people come together, we don't understand why these things don't work out. Because oftentimes we don't want to show this, especially if it's our second relationship, because the first one ended up and then broke up, and our hearts got broken, or a divorce. So we hide this away. But this is the very information that needs to be exposed, not outside, in here. So again, now I'm going back to the distractions, okay? So we don't want to sit for 10 minutes. Why? Because the people said, I'd rather shock myself than to sit with that. But then time, right? Now time is starting to happen each day. Today's about 6 o'clock here on a Saturday afternoon. Days are going, weeks, months, years, decades, and that's all time. So we're taught in society we have to get things done, right? We have to have this done, that done. We have to do this, go there, do this, go there. And we're so distracted that we don't have time to do this. Chronos, the Greek word for time was chronos. And going back to the Greek mythology, Saturn, Father Time. Father Time around New Year, back in Greek mythology, Father Time was depicted as he had a sickle, and the sickle was hitting God. Now, God is not so much what we think of as this Jesus hanging on a cross or anything like that. I'll explain this in a second. But Father Time is the sickle is saying Father Time is taking us away from learning about ourselves, learning about who we are. So all these distractions take us away, and also Satan. Okay, and the church talked about it as the Grim Reaper, and we talked about, so that's Father Time, and the church talked about it that way. It's taking us away from looking inside, figuring out the answers, because we're looking outside for the answers as to why things are the way they are in our life. Okay, so I would like for you to think of it this way. You see us here. This is you and I. And on top of our shoulders is this head, okay, or is this jar. And inside this jar is everything is contained in it. All of our frustrations, all of our fears, all of our anxieties, all of our guilt, all of our anger, all of that is contained here. So what we do, like I said, we suppress it. I heard of somebody talking about in meditation, they took, I forget who it was, they took their head off their shoulders and there was a board across here. And they said in their meditation, when they did, they say they felt so much more alive. They felt this sense of relief because all the crap that was stuffed in here in their head was suddenly gone. I would like for you to think of meditation as flushing a toilet. I know it may be a little too descriptive, but think of it this way. You're flushing the toilet, right? And what happens? We flush away all the garbage, for lack of a better way of putting it, right? And we fill it back up with this clear water. Buddha talked about, he said, if you took a glass of water or a jar, okay, he said, and if I put, now this is Buddha, 700 years before Christ saying this, a speck of blue ink or something like that. I'm sure he didn't say ink back then, but whatever. He's just get an idea of a blue dye into this jar, the water turns blue, right? So that one drop of that is the stuff that we were sent into our life for the anger or the frustration when we're by ourselves. He said, but if you were to take that same speck, that same drop of dew, or whatever he referred to it as, blue, and drop it into the ocean, nothing happens. Put it into a jar, and it turns blue in our head. But if we're able to meditate, and we're able to get away and transcend all this stuff, flush all that stuff away, you drop it into an ocean, nothing happens to the ocean. So this is what he was talking about, okay? So, and by the way, I have this question here. I said, how many of you watching this, however, learned anything from Buddha in your life? You may have, some of you watchers may have learned or researched Buddha. I suspect, however, that number is probably closer to zero. I know myself, I didn't know much about it, and I've only recently have I started to really kind of tune into, if you will, or start learning more about his teachings. The other thing too is I've been learning about silence, and you've heard if you're new to my channel, if you're a returning subscriber, go back to one of my earlier videos about silence. It's a very profound thinking, if you will, to go into just being this practice of just being silent at points, maybe 10 minutes of your day. Just practice being alone your thoughts, and try to, just be silent, because it's really in silence where everything happens in this world. We are led to believe that we have to constantly be moving, going. Can't sit still. Gotta go. Gotta force things to happen. The paradox is it's only in silence, when we go inside, when everything actually does change for us. It's the complete opposite of how the system that we've been living under, talk about thousands of years, or at least 1,000 years from the time of Buddha and even before him, how civilization has been taught to live, that true success is by force, is by coercion, is by grinding. It's not. You can get it, you can bang it out, but your body, like I just mentioned, our body keeps score. And ultimately, in like my case, where you find out one day you have a malignancy, you have a tumor inside. The tumor didn't just happen. I put it through my thinking, the way I lived my life up until that point. So Buddha said too, if you want to find out what the rest of your life is going to be like, look at how you are today. And how you are today is a precursor, okay, to how your life is going to be in the future. So to continue along, now going back to the Bible, so tying, like I said, I want to tie both Buddha's teachings as well as Jesus, the Bible's teaching. Now we've heard the story, obviously, of Moses, right? Moses, how he led the Jewish people out of Egypt, or Israelites out of Egypt, 400,000, whatever it was. There is absolutely no historical documentation regarding that. Here's why. Because Egypt in the Bible is not this. Now, think about this. So, again, some of you who are my age or a little younger or even a little bit older, Charlton Heston, right? Moses. He played the role of Moses. It was in this beautiful movie, the cinematography and all of this stuff. And we were led to believe that this man, Moses, led the Israelites out of Egypt, right? Across the desert, had the Red Sea part and all that, and the Pharaoh was chasing after him. No, listen to this. Egypt is our lower carnal mind. It's that 10% of our mind. That's the lower mind, the other side, the left hemisphere that Jesus in the Bible talks about. Okay, the force, the Pharaoh, forcing Pharaoh to let you go. The carnal mind. Egypt is the lower carnal mind. We're forcing Pharaoh, like in the movie, to let us go, to let go of that carnal mind. Out of Egypt. This is what we're talking about. The Israelites out of Egypt. Egypt is the carnal mind, forcing Pharaoh to let us go. Okay. It showed how the people, they crossed the desert. Well, the desert is meditation. The desert is we go to meditation. When Jesus went to the desert for 40 days or wherever it was, he didn't physically go to a desert, or maybe he did, but he went to meditation. This is, again, it's all symbolic, but it's into meditation. Into the Red Sea. It talks about the Israelites were going across the desert to the Red Sea. The Red Sea is our turning emotions. It's the thoughts that we have inside of our head all the time, the thoughts that we don't want any part of, right? 10 minutes alone, I don't want any part of that. When we go into meditation, though, the emotions start to churn, which is the Red Sea, okay? Now, trying to drive us back, the emotions, the Red Sea, they come to the Red Sea, it's trying to drive us back away from what we're going towards through our meditation. It's okay. Okay? It's also all of the thoughts taking hold in our brain. The Red Sea represents all of that. Now, so just to recap, Egypt is the lower carnal mind, forcing Pharaoh to let us go, to let go of those thoughts. Crossing the desert is the meditation. When we're crossing the desert, or with the Israelites were crossing the desert, it was going into meditation, into the Red Sea, churning emotions, trying to drive us back. All of our thoughts taking hold, trying to take hold of us, okay? Now we look up into that higher mind. We keep focusing, we keep meditating, we keep going towards that higher mind. This is what they're talking about in the part of the Bible as Moses crossing the Red Sea. And the Red Sea parts. Now the Red Sea parting is finally our emotions giving way. The carnal mind, all those thoughts, all those emotions. When the Bible talks about, and Jesus talks about, perfect, being without thought, when we can get to a place where we're just meditating and we have no thoughts, that's when the Red Sea parts. And when the Red Sea parts, then we cross over to the Holy Land, or the right hemisphere. They call it the Holy Land. It's that right hemisphere of our brain. It's the higher mind. It's the area up here where the pineal gland is. They talked about with your body, when your eye be single, meaning the pineal gland, not these eyes, this eye, single eye. It's if I happen to have one on me, I believe I do. Let me check here. If you can see this here, it's the single eye on the back of our dollar bill. That's what that's what the dollar bill, that's what the eye represents. The single eye, it's on our currency. This is why, okay? Now, I also put here, escape from the bondage of yourself. This is what meditation and what Buddha and what Jesus has been talking about. These are the three poisons that are inside of us. that we want to escape from. And this is how we do it. When we go to sleep at night, we think the last things we put into it. Now, just to go back, I want to kind of show you this real quick before we stop having this video. So here we are, okay, we're in beta brainwave, the quickest brainwaves. Beta is when we're just going, all the distractions, all the time. You gotta do this, gotta do that, go here, do that. So then we take beta, right? And we go back into theta. Or we go back into, not beta, we go back into alpha brainwaves. Alpha brainwaves are when we're sitting on the couch and we're, when they say vegging out, right? We're just sort of watching TV or whatever. We're kind of awake. We're just sort of groggy. We're kind of slow. Our brain waves are slowing down. This is why we're back into alpha. This is where we were when we had slower brain waves when we were first growing up. But we go back from beta to alpha. Then from alpha, we go into theta. Theta is as we're slowly going to sleep. We're not quite conscious, but we're not sleeping yet. This is the time when we want to start to put information into our brains, but not just any brain, into our subconscious. Because here, again, we're going to go back into that place where we're not conscious. We are dreaming. And then from theta, we go back into delta. So we reverse engineer this, okay? Because we came this way growing up from when we were third trimester, our brains turn on through here, through the beta. We want to go back and we want to escape from the bondage of ourself. And when we're in beta, we go to an area where we're in alpha brainwaves, where we're just sort of relaxing. We want to take time to just close our eyes and get silent and just allow our brains and our bodies just to calm down, have the emotions, have all the emotions of all the distractions just sort of settle. When we're in theta, the last thoughts we want to start having before we go into delta, or our brains go back out of consciousness, is to start to saturate our minds with the information that we want, the ideas. Maybe what we could do is you could make a recording of yourself as that person that you want to be, that person that you say, I aspire to be. Now that I know this, that I can do this. Because again, Buddha was talking about it, Jesus was talking about it, how many other people have been talking about it? This is possible. Then we start to focus and concentrate on exactly who this person is, this image in our mind. Like Michelangelo said about David, when he asked about how he was able to create David, he said, David was already inside the clay. I just chipped away at the excess. This is all the excess. This is how we chip away at it. We chip away at saturating our minds with that image of who we want to be. Now, the other thing about this is, as we learn this, and I'm doing this myself, as we understand this, we start to look out at our life, at the people in our life, and we start to understand there they are, who we used to be. We can see this is where, and I'm going to end this with this, the 3 poisons that Buddha talked about, but the ending of the suffering. Buddha said, we look at people and we look at ways that we can help end their suffering. If you do this, if you get to when you get to this point in your life, that you are able to then look out at the people and see, how can I, by changing myself, okay? I look at myself. Some of you have talked to me about, in some of your responses during my videos, about maybe building up some confidence or social phobias, being around others. The way we want to do this is it's a process. When we look in the mirror, you look at yourself and you speak to yourself as if you are right now, because you are. Okay, life is nothing more than a series of now moments. As I'm speaking to you, it is right now in this moment. I am. You want to use these words. I am confident. I am Close your eyes. There's moments when you're in the alpha brainwaves, okay? Close your eyes. See yourself standing in front of people, whatever it may be, confident. Make a recording of yourself. In the now moment, I am talking to a group of people. I am strong and confident. I speak. My words are clear and concise and powerful. Not powerful as you were trying to persuade anybody, but just I have this inner knowing. I walk with a certain air, a certain stride of confidence, of self-assurance, self-assuredness, deservability, worthiness. I am worthy. I am deserving. I am self-assured. I am self-confident. I am, and then fill in whatever it is. I am in this moment. Because as we start to do this, okay, we start to generate this energy field. We all have it around us. This is why we have, you could hear certain people saying about others, about certain people, we just love being around. I love how I feel, okay, when I'm around that person. Just being around that person, I feel. So it's that energy that that person puts out. So you talk to yourself in these moments, make a recording of yourself and listen to it as you're going to sleep, as you're in the theta brainwaves, as you are that person right now. Because when you are that person, it'll be now. Just like it's now, whenever it was when I started this video, it was now. When I end this video, it will be now. So this is how we overcome the poisons that were put there by people who they didn't understand. Okay, now if there's anybody here in your life that maybe you have a vengeance for, or there's a lot of hate for that person. When you close your eyes, see that person surrounded by love, surrounded by all beauty. Because as you do this, and this may be a challenge for you early going, okay? As you do this, you're freeing yourself, okay? You are freeing, you are escaping from the bondage of yourself. That person's gone, let them go. Whether they're still physically here on this earth or they've passed on, it's time to let them go. It's time to escape. You escape from the bondage, okay? Quick story, and I'll end it with this. In India, there was a question about how can you get a 5-ton elephant to have them stand with a rope tied to a post, and they don't move, and they'll stand there. In India, when the elephant is just a baby, after it's out running around doing these things, they'll take it and they'll tie the rope around its hoof and tie it to a stake. Okay. Now, if you tie a 5-ton elephant to a house, it will rip your house down if it wasn't trained. This is how they do it. When they tie it to a stake, that elephant can't get the stake out of the ground. It will twist, it'll turn, it'll flip, it'll pull, it'll do whatever it has to do to try to get the stake out of the ground. And eventually, it just gives up. When it's a 5-ton, or however many tons it is, animal, all the trainers have to do is put the rope out there, not even tie it to a stake, just wrap it around the hoof, and the elephant will stay and not move. This is you and I. This is the bondage that we're in. These are the distractions that I talked about. The distractions are put there on purpose to distract us. Like I mentioned about Father Time with the sickle for God. But God is you. You are God. I am God. God is in each one of us. We are God. God is in, remember I talked about earlier, the kingdom of heaven that Jesus talked about is our mind. It's up to us to discipline ourselves to the point where we can then break the chain, escape from the bondage that is our life. This is how we do it. This is how we remove the three poisons from ourself. We end the suffering in ourself, and by ending the suffering in ourself, we end the suffering in the world. If you would like any kind of work with this one-on-one, I'm offering one-on-one coaching. Go to my channel, and I'll be honored to work with you. Just click on the link. If you would please do me a favor and share this video with as many people as you can, because the more people see these types of videos, the more we can end the suffering in ourselves and in ourselves by extension, the world. Thank you so much, folks. And again, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell so you receive all my videos. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you once again for returning. And I'm going to have membership type videos. I'm going to start expanding my channel and making those videos exclusively for members. So you'll see about that. You want to click on the membership tab, I believe, or whatever it is, to become a member of the channel. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you the next time.